I spent my whole life figuring it out. I never knew what I wanted or which interest to go for. I always had many interests. I kept waiting to get answers or signs to the question, what should I do? But in reality, I just lost time because the answers were within. And in this video, I share how to learn to listen to yourself and what you really want. So, very first thing when it comes to thinking of which interest to pursue is that the interest that you choose to pursue will feel right inside. So, there will be zero weird feelings related to that decision, to that interest inside of you. It can be that you will feel fear. That's very normal to feel fear, especially if you're doing something completely different and taking a big leap in your life. That's okay. That's normal to feel fear. But if you feel like negativity and some opposition and it's hard to get started and you're like, I'm completely feeling inside like, am I not doing the right things? Should I be doing something else perhaps? And if you're constantly thinking of something else, then it probably means that this decision that you decided to go for is not the right one. But you shouldn't be afraid of making these wrong decisions, because often we can do this thing that we avoid making any decisions because we are afraid of making the wrong decision. But if we avoid making any decisions, we eventually make no decisions at all. And no decision is also a decision. So we don't progress further in life. It's better to not be afraid of making those wrong decisions so that you can also come to the right decisions. But it's important that you are honest with yourself early enough and let yourself fail, so to say, and be like, okay, this decision wasn't the one, and quit it and move on to another one. Because then if you are also punishing yourself and be like, okay, but I already did this decision, so let's just live with it, then it's also not good. Then the second sign when you know that you did the right decision is that that decision will instantly be backed with a lot of energy. It is insane energy boost that you get. Because if something really gives you energy and charges you energetically, it also means that you really like to do it. And obviously, if you like to do something, it's also sustainable long term for you to find success in it, right? Versus if you make a decision and it's really energetically draining you, it doesn't give you this boost of energy, especially in the beginning, then it means that it's probably not the right decision that you made, or it's not the interest that you should necessarily pursue. The third sign or way to figure out which interest to pursue as a multi-passionate is that you are willing to do it good. Whatever you decide to do in your life, it's important you do it good. And not only that you're willing to do it good, you're willing to give your best, the best you can give. Because there is really no point to do something half-half, because it just doesn't make sense. Why would you do something half-half? Because it doesn't benefit anyone. It doesn't benefit you, but it also doesn't benefit anyone else around you. Because, for example, let's say amongst many of your interests, you are thinking to become a dentist, and then you decide to go for this. You decide to become a dentist. But with that decision, you're not full in. It's more half-half, and it's just yeah, I'm just doing it because of the money, because it's good paid, because it is a well-paid job, right? So it's not for the reason that you want to really be a good dentist because you have a passion for it or you have a really deep interest towards dental care, but it's more just because it's a good profession. And also here, a quick note I want to say, it's also okay to pursue things for the reason that it's a good profession, but just that you are really willing to be good at it, at your profession. So if you decide to become a dentist like this, 50-50, then imagine what kind of a dentist you are. What kind of service will you provide your customers? An awful service. And with that being said, the likelihood of you being successful dentist will also decrease, because people don't want to come to you as your clients because they're afraid to come to you because you're doing their teeth 50-50, and then you will suffer from it financially, and eventually you will also suffer from it spiritually and psychologically perhaps as well. So it is in the benefit of you and anybody else around you to whatever you decide to pursue it good, all in, 100%, 110, not 50-50. So with this being said, it's also a very good guide for you to navigate in your interests and get a good touch on it, which of your interests you're actually ready to go fully in. And those are probably the interests that you then should pursue, rather than those interests that are more like this, You don't always necessarily immediately know that that interest is for you 50-50. Sometimes you can realize it only after you start to do it that you realize that, hey, I'm not ready to put everything into this. And then, okay, accept it, and then you just move on to your next interest. As long as it doesn't become like a pattern to you, though, to like start something and then quit on it and start something again. Also, when you decide to pursue something all in, with that there also comes this big load of energy, and it also feels right inside of you. So without those two things before that I already mentioned, this third thing is not possible. So there has to be energetic load, and there has to be the right feeling for you then to be able to give your best. But it also goes the other way, because it's just how it works, the energy, the vibes, it just works like that when you choose for something that's like meh, there is also no energetic load, and there is also not the right feeling. So these are good ways to navigate in your interests, like listening to yourself. How does it feel inside? What kind of energy do you get? Do you get energy boost, or does it drain your energy? Does it feel like more like I don't want to do this, or does it feel like yes, I'm so ready to do this? And then the third thing, that you're also ready to do it. Excellent. So when these three things are there, you for sure know that you did the right decision. Then the next really effective way to help yourself out in figuring out which interest do you want to pursue is by disconnecting and reconnecting with yourself. And what I mean with this is that we are nowadays surrounded with so much outside noise. This outside noise numbs our own voices so much that we don't hear them anymore. We don't know anymore what is ours, what is genuinely ours, and what is influenced. And especially when I talk about outside noise, I'm talking about social media, because we spend so much time in social media, and although social media can be fun, but if you spend too much time on social media, it inevitably influences us, our interests, what we want from our lives, and what kind of lifestyle do we want to live. If you're not aware of this, it's really bad, because when we are on social media, we're like, okay, I see this lifestyle, and I see this girl living this way, and I see that girl living that way. And then you start to think, oh yeah, I want to become a nutritionist. Then 5 seconds later, you want to open up your own cafe. 3 seconds later, again, you want to move to Paris and become a fashion designer. Whereas 10 minutes ago, before you opened any social media apps, you just made a decision to open your own online marketing agency. So if you're really not aware of this, conscious about this, how social media can influence your interests and you, then it can become really hard to navigate in your interest and choose your interest and like stick to yourself. So a really effective way how you can help yourself out with this is to disconnect from social media, to reconnect with yourself. That way you can really learn to know what is really true to you, to the core, to the true you, what is really you. And then when you are using social media again, you know, like, okay, I know that this interest tends to always pop out when I'm using social media, but when I'm disconnected from social media, I barely remember the existence of that interest at all. So if you tend to have like extremely many interests, it can be that a lot of those interests actually are influenced and came to you, to your life externally, but they're not really yours, like from your core. Because you know, when we were kids, like, I don't know how kids are anymore nowadays, because they have all these smart devices to their access. But when my generation and the generations before, when we were kids, do you just remember like everything you did was so like true to you? You just did you were just 100% you, and it's because you didn't have ego then. But now when we are older, we have ego, and that ego really messes up with us. So what I've noticed is that spending less time on social media and disconnecting from social media sometimes, once in a while, is really beneficial to reconnect with that child you know, the true you. And then the fifth thing that's gonna help you with navigating your interests and figuring out what do you want to do with your life is developing self-awareness. And with this I mean like figuring out your values and what kind of lifestyle do you want to live, because these things are really gonna help you with choosing which interests you should pursue, and especially when it comes to career and like professional interests. Being really aware what kind of lifestyle do you want to live and what values do you have will really help you with navigating your interests and choosing which career path you should, for example, take. And also the life you live, the way you live your life should also absolutely match your values, because otherwise there will be always inner conflicts and this unsatisfaction feeling towards life. And before I share my last tip with you, I want to share with you something that really helped me to gain peace with myself and like live with my multiple interests. So it's really normal to have many different interests. In fact, many people do. It's far more normal to have multiple different passions and interests than to just have one. But not every interest or passion that you have needs to make you money. When I realized this, it was really helpful for me because I thought before that every interest that I have, it's only valuable interest and like valid if I'm able to make money out of it. And I think it's a little bit thing of our generation that we don't really have hobbies anymore. We have only side hustles, you know, there is this meme. But actually, it's also okay to leave some of your interests to just be your interests, to be your hobbies. Not everything has to become your career because your interests make you the unique person you are. And some of your interests you're better off just pursuing during your free time. For example, when I was younger, I used to be extremely passionate about nutrition, sports, and like health. And I used to spend many evenings reading about this, like learning all the like human physiology and sports and nutrition. Everyone would have thought probably that I will pursue nutrition and sports and health as my career, and I thought so as well at that time. But then I grew older and I realized that, hey, no, I don't want to. It's not gonna be for me an interesting career. It's definitely interesting for me during my free time. Absolutely. I love it. I live by it. But that's it. It's my lifestyle. But it's not a career for me. So I hope with knowing this, you can also gain like inner peace and understand that not every interest of yours needs to be validated by some monetary success, I guess. Okay, let's move on to the next tip I have for you. Sometimes, if you still have more than one interest after these tips that I shared with you, especially after the three first ones, then sometimes the only right way to figure out what do you want to do with your life and which interest is the right for you is by doing. By trying these different interests and figuring it out in practice. But about this I talk more in depth and detailed in this video.